So you've spent your entire career solving really hard problems, right? You were the go-to person, and now retirement feels, well, surprisingly difficult. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And we're about to break down exactly why this transition is often the absolute hardest for the most successful people out there.
You know, this quote, it really hits home, doesn't it? It isn't just some clever phrase, it's validation. It's telling you that what you're feeling is completely real. And believe it or not, it points directly back to your own success as the root cause.
So let's get one thing straight right off the bat. What you're going through is not some kind of personal failing. Not at all. It's a predictable mechanism. It's almost mechanical. And once you see how that mechanism works, you can start to look at this whole chapter of your life in a completely different light. Okay, so first things first, let's really map out what this struggle actually feels like on the inside. Because for a lot of people, it unfolds in a very specific and honestly, a pretty surprising pattern. It almost never hits you on day one. I mean, those first few months, they usually feel like pure bliss, like a vacation you've earned 1,000 times over. But then, pretty soon, that novelty, it starts to wear off. And what you find underneath isn't peace. It's this quiet, nagging restlessness, a feeling that something really fundamental is just missing. And in that new silence, when the phone isn't ringing off the hook, a question starts to bubble up. You know, it's the one that all the golf games and travel brochures were supposed to keep at bay. It's a really simple, nagging thought. Wait, was that it? And here's where it gets kind of cruel. Your whole career, your entire professional life, proved one thing. You don't fail. You figure things out. You solve problems. But now, you can't seem to solve retirement. And that gap, that disconnect, it creates this very specific feeling. We call it secondary shame. It's the feeling of failing at relaxing. It's the one part nobody ever warns you about. So, why? Why does this happen? To really get to the bottom of it, we need to look at this powerful internal formula, this equation that your career spent decades building inside your head. Think about it. For 40 years or so, your brain, which is just an incredible pattern recognition machine, it looked at all the evidence and drew a very logical conclusion, probably without you ever even realizing it. And that conclusion was, my value as a person is a direct function of my output. My worth comes from solving problems. Let's call it the Conditional Value Equation. And this wasn't a one-time thing. This equation got reinforced every single day in a constant loop. You'd solve a tough problem, something real would happen because of it, and the organization would take notice. And then what happened? The phone rang again. You were consulted again. Every single promotion, every bonus, every great job just hammered that connection home, embedding it deeper and deeper into your operating system. Now let's be really clear here. This wasn't some irrational belief you cooked up. Not at all. It was a completely logical conclusion based on decades of hard, consistent evidence. Your entire environment taught you and rewarded you for believing that your ability to produce was your value. So over time, this equation, it became way more than just a belief. It morphed into what researchers call an identity anchor. Think of it like a main, load-bearing pillar in the architecture of you. It's a structural part of how you see yourself in the world. It's not just what you think, it's part of how you think. So what happens when that identity anchor, that pillar that was held up by a constant stream of problems and praise, what happens when the entire foundation just disappears overnight? Because that's what retirement does, right? It removes the entire scaffolding that was feeding that equation. All those demands, the deadlines, the inbox full of problems, the phone that never stopped ringing, poof, they just stop. And here's the absolute crucial point. The equation itself, it doesn't get the memo. It doesn't retire. It's still running in the background 24/7, totally intact. But now it's scanning the horizon, looking for inputs, for problems to solve, for deadlines to hit that just aren't coming anymore. That's where the restlessness comes from. It's a machine looking for a job to do. Okay, this is the part where everything can change for you. Because once you understand that it's a mechanism, you can stop seeing this struggle as a failure. You can start to see it as something else entirely, as a signal. Look at it this way. The struggle you've been interpreting as a personal failure, it wasn't created by some weakness in your character. Just the opposite. It was produced by a strength in your training. You were simply conditioned, incredibly effectively, for a world of achievement and consequence. And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to take away from all of this. The depth of your struggle isn't a measure of some flaw inside you.
It's the measure of how completely, how thoroughly you are built for consequence, for doing things that actually mattered.
So you see, your restlessness is not the problem that you need to fix or get rid of. It is a signal. It's a ping from a high-performance brain that was built to have an impact, and it knows on a deep level that it's currently running below capacity. It's trying to tell you something really important. And this is why all that common advice, travel more, take up woodworking, play golf, this is why it so often feels hollow and falls flat. Those things are treating the symptom, which is just empty time, but they do nothing to address the root cause, which is that value equation still running, still looking for consequence. Simply filling your days doesn't rebuild an identity anchor.
All right, so if just filling your time isn't the real answer, then what is? Let's talk about how you can actually start building your next chapter on a foundation that's a whole lot stronger.
The real work, the real opportunity here isn't to silence that restlessness, it's to listen to it. The work is to build a new mechanism, a new system that lets you turn that incredible expertise you spent 40 years building into real-world consequence. But this time, and this is the key part, entirely on your own terms. So what could that actually look like? Well, for some people it might be consulting in their specific niche. For others, it's doing advisory work, but only for projects and causes that they truly care about. Maybe it's even building something new, a book, a course, a framework that packages up everything you know and makes it available to the next generation. It all boils down to one fundamental truth. The expertise you built, the sharp judgment you honed over decades, that stuff doesn't retire. It can't. The only thing that retires is the job title. Look, the very fact that you've stuck around for this whole explanation proves you're not done. You're just in between projects. You're getting started on the next thing. So really, there's only one question left to ask. The person who spent 35 years solving the hard problems is about to start their next chapter. What's it going to be?